Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 143. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank everyone who has liked, shared, commented, who has subscribed to the show and continues to support us. All that support allows us to continue to bring on expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guest today. Also want to take this time to thank our sponsors. Samson Equipment has been providing uncompromising quality for over 40 years. Samson products are long-lasting and made of the highest quality equipment on the market. Each project is built from the ground up with the ability to customize every need. The team at Samson focuses on developing the highest quality relationships with their customers, in addition to providing them unparalleled quality in every piece of equipment bearing the Samson name. Learn more about Samson's professional weight room solutions and the Samson standard at samsonequipment.com. Also want to thank our sponsor, Cerberus Strength. Trusted since 2012, Cerberus is making the best strongman, powerlifting, and strength sports equipment and accessories, ensuring the ultimate competitive edge. Every one of their products is tried, tested, and proven by top-level athletes worldwide. So whether it's competing on the big stage at World's Strongest Man or training at home in the gym, Cerberus strength equipment is reliable, durable, and of course, strong enough to handle all your training goals and needs. If you're in the market for the highest quality strength and conditioning gear and equipment, be sure to check out CerberusStrength.com and use promo code strength_game to save on your next order. Also want to thank our sponsor, Sport Kilt. Born in Scotland and stitched in America, Sport Kilt offers the highest quality custom kilts and accessories. Every Sport Kilt is made in the USA of machine washable polyester blend fabric, offering an alternative to the traditional heavy wool kilt. Check out the No Pants All Glory selection of kilts and shop the best collection of high quality American-made sport kilts and accessories at sportkilt.com and use promo code TSG to receive an extra 10% off your next order. And in this week's episode, I am joined by Mike Colella. Mike is a strength coach and owner of Coach Mike's Dog Pound. Colella established his coaching business and LLC in 2023 after training clients at Explosive Performance from 2018 to 2023 in Frederick, Maryland. Throughout his time working in the fitness industry as a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, and strength coach, he's worked with athletes of all levels from youth to pro, competitive powerlifting, and general population clients, as well as strongman. In addition to his business and coaching role, Colella is an adjunct professor at Hood College. He began teaching in 2024 and currently teaches courses in health and wellness, strength training and exercise physiology, and coaching theory and leadership. He is a former graduate assistant strength coach at Hood College from 2022 to 2024, where he earned his master's of business administration. Colella also garners experience as a strength and conditioning intern at UMBC in 2016, as well as being the director of youth and high school programs at Explosive Performance from 2021 to 2023. Colella is very active in training outside of his coaching and teaching responsibilities. Currently, he is a competitive strongman athlete where he's been competing since 2017. Like I said, I'm excited to have him on the show today. So with all that said, let's get in the game with Coach Mike Colella. What's going on, everybody? Today we've got Coach Mike Colella on the show. How you doing today, man?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good, man. Hey, we haven't chatted in a while. We used to be pretty close neighbors in Maryland, picking up strongman around there with some of my good pals, Andy Deck and Greg and Inocencio's future or past guests on the show. So it's only fitting we get you on today and kind of check in with everything you got going on as a strongman athlete, as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as a professor at Hood College as well. So you're a man of many hats. So I can't wait to kind of dive into all those things with you. Before we get into all the coaching X's and O's and things like that, though, how'd you really kind of get involved in the strength game? Like, what were the sports you kind of played growing up that kind of led you to competing into strongman now?
So starting out, I played lacrosse for many, many years. And then I switched over to track after I realized that I might be better at that and have a better shot at actually contributing to a team over there. So I really started lifting my senior year of high school to get better at track. And my original plan was to try to run into college, but I realized I liked lifting a lot more. A couple of years after that, I realized that amateur strongman, powerlifting, and Olympic lifting competitions existed, and I decided to sign up for one of those. And the day after I signed up for Maryland Strongest Man 2014, I messaged Andy Deck on Facebook. I never met him before, but I saw on some Elite FTS forums that he was in the Salisbury area and was welcoming anybody who wants to train with him. So then I ended up at the storage unit with him and you and Greg, and Mike Ginman was there a short time after that. And yeah, so that makes it 11 years since I started competing. And it all started because I was a super skinny kid that wanted to jump higher.
Hey, sometimes you got to start somewhere, and it's cool to kind of see that trajectory and everything. And I know Andy's hesitant to figure out who he invites to the storage unit, but like if you break through that first invite, if you never get a call back after, you already kind of know what the deal is. So you got the invite to come back, and like that's a pretty sturdy crew, like to be around, and like especially on those strongman Saturdays, like it's enjoyable, it's fun, everybody's getting after it, and like it's crazy to kind of work with a pro strongman like as like kind of your teacher and instructor, and like how well he does to kind of engage you and teach you throughout the process. Like it's the sport makes it so interesting. It's people like him that make it even more fun. Like it's been 11 years, so like what's kind of kept you coming back to strongman and like incorporating that within your own training?
Um, you know, I think I think having that influence from the start, Andy, just gave me so much knowledge and experience that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else, and never charged me anything, and like always super willing to go super out of his way. And I just really like that community right away. I came to find out that more and more people in that world are like that. And I always had an interest in coaching and didn't realize that you could be a strength and conditioning coach as a profession at the time. And uh, immediately that was something that I was drawn to because I just wanted to help people out in the same way that you guys did for me when I was super skinny and I thought I was hot shit because I was the strongest guy at the rec center at Salisbury.
Well, that's awesome to kind of hear that too, because that was kind of my next question was like trying to figure out when you kind of knew you wanted to coach. And that's awesome to hear that kind of maybe that was like a spark that lit a fire under you to actually start getting involved and try to give back to the community. I think a lot of people end up doing that once you kind of find a strength sport or like a lifting group or team kind of around you, you end up like wanting to bring more people on and kind of show them the ropes and everything. And it's just passing down experience and bringing more people into the game and everything too. So I guess like spinning off of that, what was kind of the first step that you took like after you were like, hey, coaching seems like a real cool avenue. Like talking to obviously like Inman was probably like right in your wheelhouse as well, like in 2014, because he was about to take over the GA position. I was on my way out. Andy had finished his and he was getting ready for PT school, and Greg was already in that. So you were like in the middle of everybody like kind of figuring out their avenue and departing. You were the new guy. So what was like the next step you took to really say, hey, like I got to get my feet wet and actually start coaching?
So either shortly before or shortly after I started working out with you guys, I contemplated switching my major to exercise science. And you guys almost gave like cautionary tales. Like everybody that I looked up to was telling me like, just make sure like this is really what you want to do. And like, if you're even a little bit on the fence, I would recommend against it. And and then I talked to what was it, Mazzetti? He was the department chair for exercise science at Salisbury. He said the exact same thing. He's like, "Are you sure you want to switch to this major that's ultra competitive and a lot of times doesn't pay super well?" And I I always thought if I had enough money to pay my bills, like just to make a living, but I was doing something like that that I loved, then I could be pretty content with that. So switched my major and then did a couple summer internships at UMBC and through AP. And those are my first sort of coaching experiences, as much as you can coach for real when you're an intern at a big place like that. But yeah, I loved it right away. I got a desk job right when I graduated, and it took me a while to find my way back. But since I started doing this again full time, I can't picture myself doing anything else.
That's awesome. Well, it's good too. Like from the get-go, you were someone that maybe came into the game a little bit later as a coach and kind of realizing it was a profession. I know a lot of people have been in similar situations where they didn't really understand that you could be a strength coach and kind of get paid or get paid to whatever scale you want to call it nowadays. But you, instead of just kind of going full bore and like looking at the college setting alone, like dipped your toe into the private setting, like got into the college setting as well. So you were at least able to coach and intern and experience both of those avenues because a lot of people end up just kind of going after one and maybe falling out of coaching, not realizing that there's so many different populations you could work with. There's high school tactical, like rehabilitation setting, like there's so many different ways you can approach it. You were able to kind of do both. And now your career still has you involved in kind of both. Like, what kind of different experiences do you think you kind of gained, like from the private setting that maybe were different for the college setting that you think are beneficial for someone that doesn't step into that other realm?
Um, I think in the private setting, there's a not necessarily a need, an obligation to be nice to people, be a people person all the time, and sort of meet people where they're at. I think in the college setting, you're working with slightly more finished products when it comes to your athletes, and everybody that's there wants to be there. They don't necessarily need a cheerleader. They just need a guide and someone to push them to their limits. They want to be pushed. So I think the biggest difference is those differing levels of motivation and desire to be in the weight room. Um, I think that the personal training side helps me out a ton at Hood, just because it's a pretty low level D3 school competition wise, and there's not a tremendous amount of buy-in. At least there wasn't when I got there. Um, Strength and conditioning was relatively new to them, so that ability to meet people where they're at and uh, have different ways of motivating people than, for example, someone who their main weight room experience is uh, in a football weight room. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. You kind of start seeing it too, and it's the same as like private setting, like college setting, you're getting athletes kind of just given to you. You don't have to go out and search for them either. And like private setting, you're selling people on the program, and there's plenty of places that if they want to go get your service, if you're not treating them well, if you're not getting them the results that they're kind of paying you for, you're going to lose them. In college setting, like you're getting athletes that know how to train sometimes, or at least understand and maybe respect that the weight room is going to get them better at their sport. They might not enjoy it as much, but inherently, like they're playing a sport that's physical, so they can kind of see the tie-ins. You might not get
Right.
that, and you'll get a completely different grab bag from people in the private setting unless you're really kind of honed in on more of that athlete population. So I definitely could see the correlation to it. And I'm sure, like you said, it benefits you to kind of be able to pull from each of those experiences to kind of impact it because you're still involved in both settings. Like, and I know we'll kind of touch on like your kind of coaching side, like your LLC and like your program and everything. But right now, like as it pertains to like working with like some of those like lower division like levels or maybe lower like competitive level sports, how do you think you're able to kind of build a little bit more buy-in? Like what's kind of been a little bit of the turnaround since you have arrived or seen things that have worked to try to get more athletes like involved in the process or enjoying the training or really just kind of excited to be there and kind of put that work in?
Uh, um, I think you sort of hit it a little bit on that last thing you said. Being excited to be there. If you can do that every time you have a session, and you can sort of be the same person and every day and have the energy they need and show them that you care about them as a person, I think there's going to be a little bit more buy-in. And I think just doing the stuff yourself and training by the same principles that you train other people can help a lot with that. Um, you know, in the private sector, it's a little bit more of a marketing tactic where, like, your body is your billboard. People are more likely to listen to a trainer that is visually in shape. And then on the athlete side of it, if you can perform the way that they want to perform, you know, I probably couldn't say this at the D1 level. Those guys would probably torch me in anything sprinting or jumping or anything. But at this level, I can kind of keep up with them.
Hey,
Um,
it's still, I think, important, like you're saying too, like practicing what you preach and being able to kind of show athletes that more than just talk the talk, you can walk the walk a little bit. And at some point in time as a coach, you're going to get to a setting or you're going to get to a team or a specific athlete, like where you're not going to be more athletic than them. Like, no, like Usain Bolt's coach is not faster than him.
yeah.
Like some of these football players, like you're not gonna hit harder than them. You're not gonna bench more than them. You have to be able to like still rely on a little bit of experience and know-how and feel of what movement is, like what speed is, like what technical proficiency of like lifts are, but that's not the be all end all. And that's some of the problems I think a lot of athletes that are really good athletes coming in as coaches don't understand. But a lot of coaches
Mhm.
that were terrible athletes that were just really good workhorses and everything understand because it forces you to like coach more and it forces you to learn and try different things out. So like I like what you said about like your body as a billboard. So like what is what do you kind of do, like knowing that you like strongman, obviously, like powerlifting and like strength sport stuff? How do you still kind of like work on maybe those other athletic avenues to kind of like relate to athletes that are still playing field sports and getting ready for their own individual sport in high school or college when you're kind of training a little bit differently than them?
So I've switched up my goals a little bit. How I place in competitions isn't necessarily as important to me as it was when I was 22. So strength is still priority number one, but I mean, a few years ago would have been the only priority. Um, so I started getting into more athletic training styles. The main goal was just to be able to demonstrate exercises without looking like a doof. Um, After that, I started to see a little progress, and now I have uh, goals to be a little bit more freaky. Like I'd like to be able to sprint faster, and my main goal right now is to be able to dunk a basketball pretty easily. Um, so um, I'm still applying the same principles that I was before. I still have my main lift where I'm trying to push the numbers on that, but it's I don't want to do that at the and compromise everything else. So I do my sprints or my power stuff, and then I do my strength stuff, and then I don't skip out on my accessories as much as I used to.
There you go. And yeah, demoing I think is a lost art or something that I think a lot of younger coaches don't realize, like how much buy-in you can build in with your athletes, especially if you're not the lead coach in college. Like if you're being asked to demo a movement, I can't tell you how many times I've prepped an intern and told them like, hey, this is what the lift is, this is what we're doing. Like, make sure you understand what it is and ask me questions. And then be like, hey, you're demoing. And they've gone to demo, and all I hear is snickering from my team. It's like, man, you just lost. You lost like all credibility because like this is your
Yeah,
time to shine. I'm trying to validate you and basically put you in front of the team that I already have kind of full control and their buy-in from. I'm trying to validate you and say to the team that, hey, this person's as knowledgeable and experienced and ready and willing to do the job just as I am. So if you ask me a question, it's the same as if you ask this person a question and you just lost it in an instinct. Like
yeah,
it's terrible. And I'm sure like you can correct me if I'm wrong, like how much more important does it seem like demoing is when it's like your business, like the private setting, when you can't really just point at like a star athlete or a kid you've had for like 3 or 4 years. Private setting, you might only have guys for the summer and you might not see them next year.
yeah. The difference in time that you have them, like 4 years versus like if they don't make progress in 3 months, you might never see them again. Um, and then the age group difference, like demonstrating an exercise if you're an intern could be intimidating in front of some college athletes, but like middle schoolers and like ninth and 10th graders are ruthless. Like they will very openly make fun of you if you do something goofy looking. Um, and if you're performing at a level where those age groups that don't take anything seriously take you seriously, then you've become a pretty good private sector coach.
Yeah, it's very different, but like it makes it seem like too for those private settings, those younger athletes, like the sooner you can kind of get them really bought into the program, you almost have them sold forever. And you're probably dealing a lot more. I don't know, maybe it's a lot more, but similar to college athletes where you're fighting against the grain when it comes to social media, what other coaches are doing, like even like other local gyms and coaches are doing down the street or what their favorite professional or at this point for a lot of youth athletes, like they're not looking at professional teams or individual pro athletes anymore. Like they're looking at all these collegiate athletes too, and they're looking up to
Oh
them
yeah.
and they're trying to copy them. Like, how do you how do you kind of address and deal with maybe them coming up to you with ideas about their program, or like them quote unquote kind of being knowledgeable or wanting to ask your opinion? Because there's a time and a place to adjust the program and kind of educate them, but you're still the expert. You're kind of creating the product. So there's a fine line between this is what I think you need and this is what they want when you're talking about putting a program together.
Um, yeah, so going along with the your body as a billboard thing, number one, I mean, kids are getting bombarded with information even more so than they were just like 5 years ago. So the billboard thing, there's a lot of jacked morons giving kids advice on TikTok. So I think if you want to create buy-in, you owe it to those young athletes to be as much of a physical freak as possible so that they actually listen to you because you are something they want to emulate. Beyond just looking the part, um, you can have a good knowledge of everything they're asking questions on, but you got to be able to explain that knowledge to someone who knows very little and explain why, not necessarily sometimes why something is wrong that they're hearing or why this is right, but it's not what we're doing right now, and here's why. Um, so um, the stuff that's just outright wrong, which is, I mean, it's easy for strength coaches to talk about how stupid every influencer is, but nobody's giving out just like flat out bad advice for the most part, besides like the kooks. Um, so I think just explaining the nuances behind everything and not just shooting down everything they say will sort of help them understand and be comfortable asking you questions again because you want them to keep asking you questions. They can Google everything. So the fact that they're asking you means that they respect your opinion. They're not questioning your knowledge or your authority. They respect you and they want to get a good answer from you.
Yeah, that's great advice too, because you don't want them to ever not come to you for answers and like not ask you questions. That's way worse. If that's the case, as
Mhm.
soon as they stop asking you questions, like you probably already lost them at that point. So there needs to be a level of like humbleness and like empathy towards like, hey, this might be the most nuanced, like the simplest answered question of all time, like rudimentary, like just flat out basic question. But to this kid, like maybe they built up the courage to ask you for a couple weeks, or this is really important, or they're getting conflicting results and like answers from their friends, and they trust you and they want to hear your opinion and like to do your due diligence and really kind of like sit them down and like go over it and like you said, speak their language because a lot of coaches end up like trying to spew out and tell people all the things they know rather than just answer the question that that individual is asking in a way that they can actually comprehend and understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think going along with that too, knowing how much of your knowledge to impart. I I feel like I see this a lot in the private sector where a lot of coaches may be just trying to showcase how smart they are. Um, you might be giving someone information that is not really important. They don't really care about it. And the way you give it is kind of condescending and doesn't really do anything productive. Um, a good example I can think of is when a soccer mom may say that her goal is to get toned. A lot of trainers have said like there's no such thing as toning a muscle. You're talking about building muscle or fat loss. Um, but you know exactly what they mean. And I don't think it really gets you anywhere by explaining why they're wrong about their goal. Like you're technically right, but does it really matter?
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it too. Like there's a lot of people that kind of get a little bit snobby when it comes to like definitions, vocabulary, like for whatever vernacular you want to use when it comes to stuff like toning or like fitness or cardio, whatever like buzzword you want to use. And especially when you're talking to general population or people that are just kind of hear all these buzzwords, just like, for lack of a better word, buzzing around like in their head. Like they want to come to you for like what the result is, not necessarily like how it's described. So like to shoot them down is definitely probably doing a disservice to yourself and to them when like, hey, there's plenty of opportunities like later down the road when they're actually seeing results or they're working with you where you can like, hey, by the way, like toning's not a thing. Like you're actually doing this. Like that you don't have to do that on the first day and like
Right.
and put them down right off the get-go. Different. I don't understand why people do it, but hey, like on that kind of topic and like talking about education and like different ways to like get your point across and like actually teach people how exercise science, kinesiology, like strength training, endurance, all those things kind of like impact you and benefit you. Like you are a professor and you're teaching a bunch of different classes over at Hood College as well, like after you finish your GA position there. What kind of got you involved, like teaching, and what's kind of been the process like? How have you enjoyed um, kind of the student like the student professor side of strength conditioning?
Um, I don't really have a heartfelt origin story for how I got into teaching. I was a grad assistant at Hood and teaching the one credit class added a couple extra bucks to my stipend. So that's how it started last year. But I actually ended up really enjoying it. The first class I taught was it's just called strength training. It's everybody at Hood has to take a couple credits of PE. So I teach a mandatory one credit class. Um, you are exempt from these credits if you for every season that you play a sport. Um, so I'm dealing with everybody that is not an athlete at Hood in these classes. Um, so um, the structure of the class is really people that aren't spending time in the gym on their own. So the curriculum of the class is very much learning how to train and learning how to write a program for yourself. So not too different from what the first 3 months of a general population client training wise would be. Um, and yeah, just teaching these people how to set goals and how to make a well-rounded program for a week and how to set new goals.
It's pretty awesome. Like it's definitely not as sexy and glamorous as you're making it sound, but you know what? Like as a coach and as someone that was worked in the private sector and has their own company and business, like trying to work on building their brand, like this has got to be probably a really awesome opportunity for you to kind of fine tune how you structure and like teach individuals how to like have a good healthy lifestyle, like develop healthy habits, like learn how to kind of in a way take ownership of their own training and kind of build and ask good questions about what strength training and health and wellness and nutrition and recovery looks like because like you said you're dealing with individuals that are not involved in athletics, you're dealing with individuals that are probably not super keen that they have to take this one credit class, but for you, it's an opportunity to kind of work on your coaching voice a little bit and try to change people's mind in a way of why training is important. Like, how has that kind of been like your first impression, like in the first couple of years of doing this? And like, have you been able to kind of maybe manipulate the curriculum a little bit to fit how you feel a first time person would want to learn this kind of material?
Yeah, uh I didn't really have any strict guidelines on how I am supposed to run the class. So like the first 6 weeks of the class, we go over foundational movement. So week one, we learned how to squat. Week two, we learned how to bench. Like we basically just do like a squat, a push, a pull, and then a hinge, a push, and a pull for vertical versus horizontal. Um, After those first 6 weeks, they have everything they need to run to make a well-balanced program. And after that, we talk about goal setting. And then the class has been different the 2 semesters I've taught it because after that, um, I tell them I have talked about everything that I feel like I need to talk about. So if you guys have questions, and they end up being questions that I can rant about for a little bit, we can make a whole class about something. So there were people who were interested in um, more cardio goals. So we talked a little bit more about how to progress your cardio, even though it wasn't strictly part of the strength training class. Um, the group in the fall semester had a couple people that were more interested in strength and power. So we did the basics of Olympic lifting for the people that were interested in doing so. Um, so yeah, I mainly just want people to have a good experience in the gym and come back to the weight room after the semester is done. So if I can have 3 or 4 people that keep showing up after finals week, then I'll feel like I did my job and I feel like I brought people to a healthier lifestyle that otherwise wouldn't have found it.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's awesome. Like being able to kind of figure out, obviously not having a super structured curriculum about like what you have to do, but you're hitting like the foundational movements, you're hitting the basics of like what it is. And I mean, the underlying principle is trying to get people to have a consistent, healthy lifestyle that goes beyond just what that one credit, like one semester course looks like. So I think you're accomplishing that. And I'm sure like over the course of time, like asking these questions and seeing what people are interested in, you're going to start seeing those trends. And then you'll be able to kind of build out like more structured curriculum and really kind of bolster that into maybe a higher level class or something that's kind of offered in the future that's more dialed in or like appeals to people that are not their first time training and are not like a basic like strength training 101 class.
Yeah, so something that's being discussed for 3 credit classes is an exercise physiology class. So that one, I believe the track coach is teaching that. And the textbook is just like the CSCS textbook. So I'm guessing their final exam is going to be a lot tougher than what people think they signed up for. But I think that would be a good avenue for anybody who wants to learn more about it and has space for electives. Um, and then maybe that'll be a good avenue for Hood to finally introduce an exercise science as a major.
There you go. I mean, a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities, but it's cool to kind of see you on the ground floor of all that stuff. And I mean, it's another kind of feather you can put in your cap of kind of different experiences you're doing. Like I said, like been coaching the private sector, you've been an intern in that sector, college side, GA, like teacher, professor, like that's a pretty cool thing to kind of add to your resume as well. And then on top of all that stuff, like I know a couple years you started it, but like getting your own kind of company, LLC, kind of working on building a brand yourself with like Coach Mike's Dog Pound. Like, how did that really kind of get started? Like, what was like the inception and kind of thing that really drove you to want to have your own brand, your own kind of like coaching program that you could really like hang your hat on and start driving more athletes and clients towards you yourself as a coach?
So That came about when I was about halfway done my grad assistantship. I was still working full time at a commercial gym, and it it was just very stressful the amount of hours I was working between both things and going to classes at night. And I wasn't particularly fond of some of the policies, or my all my clients were happy, but I didn't do everything that a typical personal trainer would do. I typically tended to run my sessions more like what a college weight room would look like, and that didn't really fit the mold they were going for. Um, so the stress of the hours and them taking a good amount of the money I was bringing in, and knowing that I had a loyal clientele that would follow me, it was a pretty smooth transition, and really a lifesaver during the last year and a half of grad school to go off and do my own thing. I initially did it by renting space at a local powerlifting gym. Shout out to Josh Price and Hometown Barbell. Um, and yeah, everybody followed me right away, and I was making more money on day one.
Hey, that's already a great start then too, and like being in a good location that is backing you and kind of supports you and wants to help you bring in coach like different athletes and clients and supports your business. That's pretty huge. Like, how did you kind of like learn about that side of everything? Because obviously coming from myself, not someone that's really had a lot of experience in the private setting other than talking to coaches like you that have experience or individuals that have brick and mortar or have their own businesses and rented space like you have in those gyms. Like, how did you kind of learn some of like the entrepreneur sides, like the business side of coaching, like even when it comes to negotiating like fees and rental of space and like how it's going to work for you bringing on clients, or is the hosting gym the one that's going to bring on the clients and you kind of just get your fill? Like, where are you doing that research on your own? Is it just time that you spent from when you were at like True AP and stuff like that that really kind of answered those questions you were looking for anybody that's like really interested in that private setting and trying to like venture out on their own, but not can't maybe afford their own space?
If I'm giving advice to anyone that's listening, I probably did not do nearly enough research before I made the jump. The biggest piece of advice from what I did that you could apply to yourself is just be wildly delusional that you're going to make everything work out. Be very confident in yourself. Um, if I were to do things differently, I probably would have searched around, looked at gyms, looked at what they could offer me in terms of space and what they could do to bring in clients. But everything worked out really well for me without doing that. Josh is an awesome guy, and he's brought a couple people my way, but he is in no way obligated to do so. It's a powerlifting gym. Most of the people that are there are not athletes or general population clients that are typically looking for trainers. And his philosophy is everybody there is an independent contractor. So if uh, his way of making sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing is, you really rely on yourself to be successful. Um, and I think I hit everything that I could think of in that question. Did I leave any question that you had there out that you
No,
want me to hit on?
no, I think that's good. Like, I mean, obviously, like the demeanor and like the attitude that you have going into it, and obviously, like some of the advice of looking back and what you might have done differently, like knowing the current situation you're in. Like, I mean, at some point in time, you've got to make the leap, and at some point in time, you've got to bet on yourself if you want to have a business. So,
Mm,
you can't really just sit and wait. But like to your point, finding a really good, maybe not, maybe business partner isn't the right term, but finding someone that kind of supports you as an independent contractor or allows you the space and the facility, the equipment, or the freedom more so to kind of do the things that you want to do and coach the way that you want to has got to be one of the secondary most important things outside of like really feeling confident in yourself as a coach and entrepreneur to really go out and pursue that avenue.
absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Um, if you're asking somebody for help, there's a good chance that there's somebody that was in the similar position to you. And in my experience, all of those people have been more than happy to go way more out of their way than you would expect them to help you out and to get to where you want to be. Um, I talked about it a little bit. I messaged Andy without knowing him. And, I've never been timid about just putting myself out there in that manner. Um, if you can muster up the courage to ask for help, people are usually willing to offer it. And another thing I would talk about the transition from working training in a commercial gym versus getting clients outside of that setting. Um, you're going to gain a lot of sales experience in a commercial gym, but those are going to be members of the gym. Those are pretty warm leads. So understanding the difference between sales and marketing is something that I would recommend you do before you make that leap, because now you don't have the name of the big commercial gym behind you. So you got to figure out a way to put your name out there and get people who have never heard of you to give you calls. And that'll be a lot easier than knocking on doors or just going around passing out flyers and doing things the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, so like I know moving from the commercial gym, like you talked about, like you built a reputation. You might have had some warm leads, like you said, from commercial gym clients that were coming over looking for more to their training or wanted to be high school athletes or go on to play college. And like we're already invested past just the general gym goer and like membership. They wanted more. So they were kind of upgrading in a way to like pay for your services within the gym they were already going to. But like you established all those individuals and like you kept it going and like built trust in them to want to come back even when you kind of relocated. How, like, if you were starting block zero, like, again, not really having like those leads, and you're talking about like sales versus marketing, like, what's a good approach, or like, what would you suggest for individuals that are really trying to get themselves out there, sell themselves to clients in their local area, or maybe to a another coach that owns a powerlifting gym or a commercial gym, like why they should hire them to come on and service those clients because that's got to be one of the hardest parts is actually just where to go, how to bring people in because otherwise you're paying for renting space or you're paying to just be there and no one's showing up.
Um, if you're starting from zero, I would really work to negotiate that rental space thing that you're talking about. Um, because if the owner of that gym understands that you're starting from zero clients, and um, you kind of start low on the rent, and then as you start bringing in more clients and taking up more space, more hours of the day, that rate goes up. I think that's going to be something that they will see as fair and is a lot better for your situation. And that'll sort of allow you to keep doing whatever it is, the main thing that you're doing right now. Initially build it off as a side hustle and then just let it grow organically. Um, the other option requires a lot more resources, which is just to take out a loan and build a giant gym and just try to do it big right away. That seemed like a little bit too big of a gamble for me. So letting my thing grow organically was the way to go for myself. But if you are very confident about yourself as a businessman in general, you may have success doing so. And I think that's why I pushed off doing it for a long time, just because everyone that I knew that was a business owner in the fitness world had the big brick and mortar gym, or at least had some sort of training facility that was their own. So it seemed much like a much more difficult task to me because I didn't have anything that was necessary to start that out even. And then to keep it going after you take that leap is it's tough.
Yeah, it's one thing to start something, but it's a whole thing altogether to have some consistency and have it continue to grow and build off of that because like you don't want to be a flash in the pan and then to be like under and bank coming in and foreclosing on your brick and mortar after you had like a great grand opening and a year later you have no business. Like if you are thinking smart and you're not financially ready to kind of like take on that burden and understand all those things, yeah, it's like there's a difference between like betting on yourself and like being just flat out stupid and like taking on
Yeah.
more than you could chew. So I can appreciate and understand like the financial responsibility and obligations that you're kind of taking those steps in order to get there. So I guess I'll ask this next and like feel free like you could share as much of this as you want. But what kind of are your goals kind of looking forward? Like you got your hand in a couple different like pots that like when it comes to coaching like with the college guys and like those teams and like teaching as well, building up your own business, kind of learning all those different avenues, like where do you ultimately like see your business and like your kind of coaching going next? Or what is ultimately like the thing that you'd like to see yourself in like doing in 5 or 10 years from now?
Um, my big goal or short-term goal is to is a little bit more personal. Is I just want to buy a house and sort of have a little bit more stability as far as that goes. So if that means taking on a college coaching job or something else while continuing to grow my business, so be it. Um, but on the business side for me, I would like um, to earn some of my time back at some point. So the goal there would be to grow the online portion of my business. Um, just doing a little bit less trading your time for money, which is the whole name of the game in just traditional personal training. Um, and get to a point where I'm busy enough that I have the problem that I need to hire assistant coaches. Um, I'm not in a rush to have my own physical facility because I have a pretty good setup right now, but I think I could run into that problem of needing assistant coaches before I have the need for more space.
All right. Hey, I mean, that's a good plan too. Like, not really necessarily expanding until you're forced to. And there's a lot
Yes.
of things you can kind of do without. And I mean, you've done that like a lot. Anybody that's worked at a lower division school or has taught like some of those classes you have or has been an intern in kind of all these different capacities, you've been able to do with less and coach with less. And that's kind of just the name of the game. And if you can do that, you can, as soon as you start getting the bells and whistles, you have more assists and stuff like that. Like it's the cherry on top. It's child's play at that point. You're just kind of figuring out how to scale things even more so. And I'd rather be overflowing and like busting through with like athletes coming through the door. And it's like, all right, this is inevitable. Now we have to expand versus, hey, I got a 10,000 square foot facility and I could throw a beach ball and I couldn't even hit enough athletes in here.
Yeah, there are times when I miss having 5,000 square feet of turf and every gadget I could possibly imagine, but you know, I don't think I'm saying anything new to the audience of this podcast. You don't need any of that to get people stronger. You just need a little bit of space to run, a little bit of space to jump, and so enough weight. That's it. Um, if you have all that, you can make it work. You can have four people on a rack, five people on a rack, maybe. Just don't try to outgrow your means too quickly. You know, I'm planning on using Hood's weight room to build my business until it gets so big that the athletic director has to kick me out. And once again, that would be a great problem to have. But uh, you know, uh, if you can keep your overhead costs low, then you're going to be more profitable than someone who has a nice training facility but is trying to do everything themselves just to pay rent.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great advice. Hey, for those like kind of steps that you're trying to look to take to kind of get to those goals and everything, like more so like on the coaching side, the business side of everything, like what are some of like the resources that you're kind of looking at into like what would you recommend to someone that maybe you're kind of brushing up on a little bit more to kind of get you there? Is it coaches you're talking to or following and things like that? That might put you in a better position to develop and get towards that goal?
Um, so I've been slacking on the continuing education. Well, I mean, I've been a full-time student for the past 3 years, so I haven't been doing as much exercise science related um, continuing education. But I would say that's right in line with what I need to be working on anyway. If you're coming from a powerlifting background to be a better coach, you probably don't need to be learning more of the finer points of the bench press to become a better coach for your athletes. You should be working on your weaknesses just like you would in training. So for me, right now, the biggest things I'm trying to bring up are my marketing and my understanding of business as a whole. So for my education, I'm mostly seeking advice from business owners and entrepreneurs that I actually know. Um, Only one of those people is actually in a sports related industry. So, if you could just talk to entrepreneurs and people who have a little bit more experience in that area than you, I think you can gain a lot of knowledge having a conversation with them rather than reading a book about entrepreneurship.
Oh yeah, and obviously too, like an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur, and like anybody that's pretty business savvy, like you can twist it and just kind of change some of the verbiage to apply to you as a strength coach. And like, I mean, you're the subject matter expert when it comes to like coaching and how that business side of it pertains to exactly your clientele and your situation and like your future staff and things like that. But being able to kind of get as much information from someone that is in is already in that marketing and business side, like that's only going to benefit you versus only looking like in a smaller scope at coaches that have opened up a facility because there's so many factors that come into play of whether or not you're going to be successful, like just the type of training you have, like the staffing, like your oversight, like if you're going to have someone else running like the business while you're the primary coach? Are you going to take on all the roles, location, overhead? Like there's so many things that come into factor like when you're looking at starting like a full brick and mortar business. And obviously like you're still running your online business, you're still running all those programmings and like figuring out all the other financial aspects of insurance and stuff like that. So you kind of want some information from people that have already been through the gamut of that stuff. So maybe you can avoid some of the pitfalls that they had and apply it to you as a coach that wants a brick and mortar.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of parallels between um, coaching and training and starting out a business. Not everything has to be perfect right away. Just keep showing up and working your butt off and get better at the things you suck at. Um, and um, you know, keep keep asking for help and yeah, don't be afraid to fall flat on your face. You're gonna mess up even if you have a perfect plan. So just keep showing up even after you fall flat on your face.
Oh yeah. Well, I love it, man. You're right. Like there's a lot of parallels between the two and like coaching and training, like it takes a lot of reps, takes a lot of consistency, it takes a lot of hard work and business seems like it's the same way, like marketing, like putting yourself out there, being humble, not being afraid to ask for help, ask for advice. Like that's the same thing with training. Like when you first start out, usually people are seeking out the biggest kind of whoever's got the most weight on the bar. Like you're going to talk to
Mm,
them. Business side, same thing too. Like, hey, who's got the biggest facility like on the block? Like, let me go talk to them. Like, where did you start? Like, what were some of your shortfalls? Like, what were some of your shortcomings? Like, what are the things that I can kind of avoid coming up because I want to get to the position you are. I don't want to skip the steps necessarily, but I'd like to avoid maybe some of those potholes and get through some of those steps a little bit more quickly and maybe come back to you for questions I have in the future. And finding a mentor like that, like you're kind of working on doing right now, that's huge for anybody that's getting involved in training, getting involved in coaching, or getting involved in that business side of the world as well.
absolutely. And if you work with general population clients, there's a good chance that some of your clients own small businesses and can give you some awesome advice. I think the first person that told me to go out on my own uh, and quit my job was a pretty successful real estate agent in this area. And yeah, all the business owners that I trained were telling me like, you don't need this place. Just start your own thing and figure it out.
Hey, that's there you go. Get to know your clients, get to know your athletes. Like that's a cheat code right there. Like they're probably super successful. You have no idea what they do for a job or business or how much helpful advice that they're gonna have that has probably nothing to do with what your career path looks like. But like you said, like there's parallels and you can draw different conclusions from that stuff. And it's all life experiences. And that's why the weight room and training is so cool because it applies to everything. So that's awesome, man. And I hope you're going to have a lot of success with that moving forward. But hey, like any good training session though, we got to end the show and we end it with a finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions. And just because like for old time's
Mm.
sakes and all those storage unit parties, strength training wise, we gotta do overtime. So feel free to go rapid fire, or if there's anything that you want to expand on, have at it. But you ready for the first question?
Yeah, I'm locked in. Let's do it.
All right, first one I got for you. Biggest influence in the strength and conditioning world and biggest influence in strongman.
Uh, Biggest influence in strongman is easy, Andy Deck. Biggest influence in strength and conditioning, probably be um I would say Dave Tate is probably the person who I've watched and listened to the most.
Hey, those are two solid ones for sure. I'll give you that. Hey, so when you're not coaching, you're not competing, not kind of training or working on all the business stuff or teaching and stuff. If you get away from a little bit of like the strength conditioning athletic side, what are some of the hobbies that kind of get you ready for the next day or recharge you?
I play video games just about every day. I got about 2 hours at home before it's bedtime again. So I'm usually gaming as soon as I get home, as long as my wife doesn't seem like she needs attention right away.
Hey, there you go. You got to balance the two out for sure. Hey, if you weren't coaching and kind of working on the business and everything, what do you think you might be doing if it were a completely different career?
Um, hmm. I think if lifeguarding paid a little better, I could do that for my entire life. That was probably the best job I ever had. And if I could figure out a way to get into aquatics and make a livable salary, I'll probably do that.
Hey, that wouldn't be bad. I mean, a beach lifeguard probably in some of those fancy places, like they're probably making decent figures. Or, hey, you could probably be the strength coach for them. That might be
Hey,
the
I,
best of
I've
both
heard
worlds.
the run test for the Ocean City lifeguards is pretty intense. Like they have to be in very good shape. So maybe they do need a strength and conditioning coach.
Hey, that's might be a new business avenue for you there, right there. Hey, so setting up an ideal training day for yourself, like it might be one of those outdoor, like Maryland, like humid strongman days, or it might be in the weight room. But if it's an ideal training day, what's ideally like playing on the speakers for you, and what's your favorite post-training meal look like?
Music on the speakers is going to be my 70s hits Spotify playlist. Um, and then post-workout meal is going to be, if I'm going fast casual, it's going to be kava. But if we're doing an elegant post-workout dinner, something hibachi.
All right, I like it. Hey, so last one I got for you for overtime. What is kind of like the ultimate like motivator or thing that's like really driving you to kind of keep you continuing to stay in this profession? Like what really motivates you to kind of be at your best as a coach and an entrepreneur yourself?
Um, Something that makes the hard days a little bit easier. On the rare occasion that I will go out and be in public on the weekends, I'll see my friends from college, and they will always tell me how happy they are that I'm doing like exactly what I said I wanted to do in like 10 years ago. So um living up to that is a big motivating factor to me. Just they don't see all the hard work that goes into it, so they just see like living the dream. So I try to treat every day like that. It's there's a lot of work, but what would you rather be doing?
No, that's awesome, man. I love that. That's cool to kind of see other people like say, "Hey, I want to go out and do this." And to actually like you're not probably interacting with them quite as much, and like obviously you can see people on social media, but like to see it in person or have those conversations and like understand like, hey, this person said they were going to do this and they're doing it well and they're thriving and they're excited about it. Like that's pretty cool to like go back, especially knowing who they were maybe 10 years ago, whatever it was, high school friends, college friends, stuff like that. It's pretty interesting. It's cool to see people grow into those roles and like really fulfill the thing that they set out to do. So that's awesome, man. And I know you got some lofty goals and things that you want to do moving forward. So I'm sure like not only them, but you are going to be really excited to kind of look back and be stoked about your progress and like where you're at and set even loftier goals moving forward. But hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show today. It's been awesome to catch up. So for anybody that's got any follow-up questions for you, anybody looking for a coach in the area or online and want to join Coach Mike's Dog Pound, hey, where can they find you?
I You can go to my website, coachmikesdogpound.com. Dog is spelled Dawg on there. I'm also it's probably easiest for me to respond on Instagram. So at Colella _ MCOLELLA. And I usually respond to the DMs pretty fast.
Awesome, dude. Well, like I said, yeah, I'm stoked for you. It's cool to kind of see your progress from like 2014 and first having you arrive at the unit. And Andy's like, "Hey, we're bringing another guy in." I was like, "All right, we'll see how long he lasts." To now still be training and competing in strongman and then kind of taking coaching for a ride. And it's awesome to see your career, man. So I appreciate you coming on today and kind of sharing with the audience. And I'm looking forward to tracking your progress and seeing what you got next coming down the road.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. I told you before it's I've seen you talk to some big dogs on this podcast. So I feel really honored that I'm one of the big dogs now. So thank you for having me on.
Of course, man. And I'm excited to have you join the team. Like you're perfect for the show, and I can't think of anyone more fitting to kind of join the ranks and with the strength game. So appreciate your time, dude, and we'll keep in touch and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.